For nearly 4 years, one question has haunted investigators in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Who is truly responsible for the murder of 21-year-old Grace Jennings? The woman who wielded the sword has already admitted killing her. But prosecutors say the real mastermind never touched the weapon. On the 8th of July, 2026, that theory was finally put before a jury. This is day one of the state of New Mexico versus Isaac Apodaca. Hello everyone, and welcome back to MF True Crime. So today we're covering day one of one of the most unusual murder trials currently taking place in the United States. If you're new to the case, here's a brief overview. In October 2022, police responded to a detached garage apartment in Santa Fe after Isaac Apodaca's mother called 911, reporting that her son had told her his girlfriend had killed another woman with a sword. Officers arrived to find 21-year-old Grace Jennings dead inside the residence. A blood-covered sword lay nearby, and investigators also noted that the washing machine was running and Kiara McCulley had fresh cuts on her hands. Kiara later pleaded guilty to aggravated second-degree murder and conspiracy. Now, prosecutors are trying to convince a jury that Isaac Apodaca was the person who orchestrated the crime, even though they do not allege he physically attacked Grace. Day one begins on Wednesday, the 8th of July, 2026. Jury members enter the courtroom for opening statements in what is expected to be a closely watched murder trial. Isaac Apodaca has pleaded not guilty to the charges against him. Prosecutors contend he is criminally responsible for Grace Jennings' death, even though they do not allege he physically carried out the attack. The precise charges and legal theories are those presented in the court proceedings, and the jury must determine whether the state has proven them beyond a reasonable doubt. From the outset, both sides agreed on one important fact. Grace Jennings was murdered. The disagreement is over who bears legal responsibility. The prosecution's opening statement. The prosecution wasted little time presenting its central theory, rather than portraying Isaac as the person who physically killed Grace. Instead, prosecutors portrayed Isaac Apodaca as the driving force behind Grace Jennings' murder. According to the state, Isaac manipulated Kiara McCulley over an extended period and encouraged her to carry out the killing. Although prosecutors do not allege that Isaac physically attacked Grace, they argue that his actions before the homicide make him legally responsible. Isaac has pleaded not guilty, and the defense rejects that theory. According to prosecutors during their opening statement, one of the text messages recovered during the investigation included the words, "Just waiting for you to make the first move. Swing and don't regret the aim." The crime scene. Jurors also heard details about the scene officers encountered on the 29th of October, 2022. According to testimony previewed by the prosecution, Grace Jennings was found dead inside the detached garage apartment. Investigators recovered a long sword covered in blood. According to testimony summarized during the trial, Grace suffered numerous sharp force injuries. Court proceedings have described injuries that prosecutors characterize as exceptionally severe, including testimony that one of her ears appeared to have been severed during the attack. The medical evidence will continue to be examined as the trial progresses. Officers observed Kiara McCulley with cuts on her hands covered by bandages. Investigators also noticed the washing machine was running when they arrived. Investigators testified that the washing machine was running when officers entered the residence. Prosecutors argue this may indicate an attempt to clean or dispose of evidence following the homicide. The defense has not accepted that interpretation, and jurors will ultimately decide what significance, if any, to give that evidence. The relationships. Jurors were also introduced to the complicated relationships at the center of the case. According to investigators, Grace had previously dated Isaac. Kiara had also previously dated Grace. Isaac and Kiara were living together at the time of the homicide. Police interviews also established that the three remained in contact even after their romantic relationships had ended, providing context for the prosecution's theory regarding motive. What happens next? Although day one focused primarily on opening statements and the prosecution's initial witnesses, jurors are expected to hear considerably more evidence as the trial continues. In the coming days, the state is expected to present detectives involved in the investigation, crime scene investigators, digital forensic specialists, medical, and forensic experts. Testimony related to text messages and electronic evidence. Additional witnesses connected to the events surrounding Grace Jennings' death. The defense will have the opportunity to cross-examine each witness before presenting its own case. At the conclusion of day one, the trial remained in its early stages, and no verdict had been reached. Why this case is different? Most murder trials focus on one question: who killed the victim? This trial is different. No one disputes that Kiara McCulley carried out the fatal attack. Instead, the central legal issue is whether prosecutors can prove that Isaac Apodaca intentionally encouraged, planned, or conspired in the murder to the extent that he is criminally responsible. That distinction is likely to shape every witness, every exhibit, and every argument presented to the jury. Although day one focused primarily on opening statements and the prosecution's initial witnesses, jurors are expected to hear considerably more evidence as the trial continues. In the coming days, the state is expected to present detectives involved in the investigation, crime scene investigators, digital forensic specialists, medical and forensic experts, testimony related to text messages and electronic evidence, additional witnesses connected to the events surrounding Grace Jennings' death. The defense will have the opportunity to cross-examine each witness before presenting its own case. At the conclusion of day one, the trial remained in its early stages, and no verdict had been reached. Day one of the trial established the prosecution's central claim that Isaac Apodaca was not the person who wielded the sword, but the person who allegedly set the murder in motion. Whether the jury ultimately accepts that theory remains to be seen. The trial is continuing, and will follow each major development as new testimony and evidence are presented. If you found this recap helpful, subscribe to MF True Crime for continuing coverage of the Grace Jennings murder trial and other major true crime cases as they unfold.